Did you know that the I in iPad actually stood for internet? Because this is all the iPad was really meant for, to be an internet tablet. 12 years later, and we're now faced with a whole different beast. In fact, I like to think of my iPad as a transformer for grown-ups. You remember the Transformers, right? 80s cartoon show that was based on toys that transformed from robots into cars and cars into robots. Became a big Hollywood movie success in recent years as well. Growing up as a kid in the 80s, I instantly fell in love with Transformers. I mean, they were robots that turned into cars. That's tech and cars, my two favorite things blended into one. One of the most compelling aspects of these iconic toys was that you would get two or even more toys built into one depending on what they could transform into and what accessories they came with. And now, as a grown man, this is my favorite transformer. So with all the iPads out there, let me talk to you about iPads, tell you why I think you should have one in your life, and tell you why I decided to go with the iPad that I did. Now, I've been an iPad user right from generation 1. In the old days, it was pretty simple. There weren't many iPads to choose from, but nowadays there is a wide variety of iPads in different sizes, different configurations to choose from. My last daily was an iPad mini, and that served me very well until I saw the new iPad Pro generation, and I convinced myself, like many others, that this could be the one device to rule them all. With this in mind, I shelled out a crazy amount of money and bought the 13-inch iPad Pro with the keyboard and new Apple Pencil Pro. It towered over my old iPad mini and felt like an exciting and refreshing change. And when side by side by my MacBook Pro, it was easy to see how this could be a viable competitor to that machine. However, after a few days of usage and testing, I just couldn't get comfortable with the size and soon realized that forcing the iPad to be a Mac was just wrong. With that said, I was able to return the 13-inch iPad and go down a size to the traditional 11-inch, and that instantly felt better. The form factor and thinness of this device was just brilliant, and so began our journey together. I found it instantly usable and quickly started to introduce it into a number of my daily tasks and workflows. Having been a fan of all the Apple Pencils, I appreciated the new features of the new Pencil Pro, and for someone who uses it for writing notes and even a bit of drawing, it was a no-brainer for me. I even found using it with DaVinci in the iPad had become a cool new way of interacting with my favourite video editing tool. In fact, at times using a pencil for video editing felt like a more precise way of slicing footage and working on the video timelines. Then we have to talk about the new Magic Keyboard case with the built-in trackpad, which had been updated for this generation. Now feeling so much more premium, giving it a feeling that was much closer to a MacBook. Having the trackpad instantly makes it feel like it's transformed from an iPad to a laptop-like device. See the connection to the Transformers here? With one extra accessory, you can turn your iPad from one form factor to a complete other. The keyboard case gives a good balance to the iPad on the table and in your lap, and the key travel makes for a brilliant typing experience. Then we have to talk about the iPad Pro's beautiful and immersive screen, making everything you watch, view or read on it pop and feel immersive. It's a comfortable device to hold and remains bright and clear in outdoor sunlight. The tandem OLED screen is a beautiful screen that's bright and clear in any condition, especially out in the sunlight. And once you've experienced it, it's really hard to go back to any other type of screen. But with all that being said, there was just one thing I just couldn't settle with, and that was trying to replace my MacBook Pro with this device. I really wanted it to work because I really didn't want to carry a MacBook and an iPad at the same time. It's just a lot of weight in my bag. And although I was able to edit 90% of my video in the DaVinci app on the iPad, I still felt like the last 10% needed to be done on a Mac. Whether it was down to the sound engineering or the color grading, some things just worked better on the Mac. And it really didn't cut the mustard in my corporate day job either. Using things like Teams for screen sharing and calls, although the calls and video calls are fine, screen sharing just wasn't an optimal experience. And then when using things like large spreadsheets, the screen size does become an issue. And although you could connect an external monitor, which was great, all in all, I still felt like I missed a Mac. And then Apple dropped this gem, the MacBook Air. and in it I found the portable and powerful powerhouse that I needed in a compact and light form factor all along. If you want to know more about the MacBook Air, check out my last video. One thing Apple does really well is maintain its unique characteristics and use cases for all of its devices. That's one of the reasons why they just don't cross streams. And although people want their iPads to be a full MacBook solution, Apple wouldn't do that. They wouldn't want you to lose your need for an iPad. And they're not going to put touchscreens on MacBooks and Mac devices because they don't want to take away the iPad superpower. So, what you end up having is different tools for different tasks. Together, they can make an incredible tool set that you can do anything with. So believe it or not, this led me to do a complete U-turn on my iPad Pro, and I ended up ditching it and going back to an iPad mini, the latest generation of iPad mini with the A17 Pro chip inside. So ironically, I'm pretty much back to the start again with the iPad mini. This is the purest iPad, never once trying to be a MacBook in any way. It allows the iPad's unique superpowers to shine. A more compact and light notebook to carry around, almost the identical size of a regular notebook, a more comfortable device to read and watch content on, the size of a Kindle, and a more versatile and dynamic device to game on, as portable as a Nintendo Switch, but as immersive and capable as a PlayStation Portal. Just like a Transformer, each and every accessory takes the iPad to the next level. For example, check out this game controller that you can add to the iPad mini, made by the gaming company Razer. This is the Razer Kishi Ultra, and once connected to the iPad mini, it definitely takes your gaming experience to another level. Using the PlayStation Remote Play feature, I'm able to turn my iPad mini into a PlayStation Portal, except a PlayStation Portal with a lot more features. And the best part of all is that the iPad mini perfectly complements my MacBook Air. They both fill in each other's gaps and finish each other's sentences. And when I carry them together, they actually equate to a similar weight to my MacBook Pro. Now I know what you're thinking, was it really worth going in a big circle around all the iPads until I ended up with the same iPad I started off with essentially, in the iPad mini? And I'd say yes. The experience that I had with the iPad Pro was fantastic. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I really miss it. That tandem OLED screen is like nothing I've ever experienced before. And no matter how much I love the iPad mini, the lack of ProMotion in its screen is miles off the iPad Pro. And some of the functionality of the iPad Pro is just untouchable. As a standalone device, it's one of the best I've ever used. And if you don't have the use cases for a Mac that I did, I think an iPad is a brilliant standalone personal computer. Add the keyboard case to it with the trackpad, and I reckon most people could use this as their daily computer easily. Now recently, Apple announced its latest iPad OS 26. This is an exciting new update for the iPad, and of all of the announcements at WWDC, I'd say the iPad got the lion's share of cool new features. Now with iPad OS 26, you're going to see the cool new liquid glass design that's across the board for all Apple devices. You're going to see full-fledged window management, background processing and productivity boosts, native iPhone integration, live translation and smart intelligence, the Journal app and pencil enhancements for the iPad itself. You're going to see the brand new Games Hub, which as I said, just takes that gaming experience of the iPad to the next level, file management improvements, which will definitely be welcome in the iPad, and some more features that really do start to take the iPad more closer into Mac territory without actually trying to be a Mac. But truly, the best iPad is the iPad that suits your needs. You need to be honest about what it is that you're going to use the iPad for. If you want to go crazy and spend loads of money accessorizing an iPad, you might end up in laptop money territory. And then you have to start thinking about whether you really need a Mac or whether it's an iPad that you need. So in my opinion, my iPad buying advice would go a little something like this. If you want a simple iPad on an easy budget, get the base iPad or the iPad Air. Even a generation older or second hand, and it will be a fantastic device. If you want an iPad that can potentially be a laptop replacement, go for one of the iPad Pro devices. You'd be surprised how close it gets to being a laptop replacement, and for many, it already is. And finally, if you already own a laptop or desktop computer and you just want a fun and useful companion device that can do things your phone and laptop just can't do, the iPad mini fits that bill perfectly. So this used to be my favorite Transformer, and now it's this. Because now there's so much more to the internet in the eye of the iPad. Because now the eye in the iPad means individuality, instruction, and inspiration. That's official, look it up, there's more than meets the eye. So like I said earlier, if you want to learn more about the MacBook Air, check out my video on that. And if you want to see something a bit different on my channel, check out one of the other recommendations at the end of this video. And also, if you like this video, please drop a like, please comment. We could talk about the iPad, we could talk about iPad OS 26. How excited are you about that? Do you think it's going to make a big difference? Me personally, I think there are some changes coming in iPad 26 that are going to make the iPad Pros and all of the iPads much more useful devices. So let's talk about that. And if you want to talk about Transformers, I'm here for you on that too. I'm a Transformers fan, so let's talk about Transformers. So until next time, see ya, peace.